Welcome back to Sisterhood Built This Village. Solidarity Broke the Silence, a serialized fiction set in Eldrida, Colonia. I'm Alice, your narrator. In this story, building a village means making intentional friendships that hold. Our protagonist is Aurora Rory Thompson, 35. You'll hear about Kaidari, a community initiative where women gather in local circles to build their villages. Names, places, and organizations are fictional. This is episode 2, The Invitation. The invitation appeared twice. First as a green square in a crowded social media feed, then as a flyer with a eucalyptus-colored pushpin on a notice board at Miro's Cafe. She almost missed it the first time, scrolling through a blur of thumbnails and promises of confidence-boosting products while her tea cooled. But the green square was different. Fewer words, no urgent fonts. She read Kaidari, build, guard, become weekly circle for women, Thursdays, 7 p.m, upstairs from Miro's Cafe, Eldrida. A tiny bowl icon beneath the text struck her as clever branding, and she scrolled on. The second time, on a different day, but at the same time and in the same cafe, she saw it on the notice board while waiting for her usual coffee order. The bulletin board caught her eye again as she paid for her cappuccino and croissant. Her friend was late again, so this time, as a gesture of love, she decided to bring the coffee to her on the way to an appointment. The bright fluorescent green of the Kaidari Circle poster stood out from the surrounding clutter of guitar lessons, language classes, and room-to-rent no-pets notices. It was a clever choice, though the flyer itself, having been pinned and repinned, had soft corners and tired yet unembarrassed ink. She takes a photo, pretending it's for a friend. Back at her kitchen table, the photo sits open on the screen until the screen decides it has been ignored enough and goes to sleep. She wakes it with her knuckle, as if gentleness will make the decision for her. It does not. Her reasons to stay home arrive on time. Reason 1. She is not a circle person. She prefers a row where faces all point the same direction, where the rules about when to speak are printed or implied. Reason 2. She has been in rooms where share meant surrender your privacy to prove your commitment. She did not like those rooms. The chairs had splinters, and the people had answers that fit too many questions. Reason 3, she is fine, she is busy. She is performing in Virella next month, and there is a list of things that need to be practiced until they don't sound like practice. Reason 4, her last attempt at asking for help turned into a story with an ending that still wakes her at 3 a.m. She opens the photo again. There is a smudge on the lower left corner where a thumb pressed too hard when it was being taped and retaped. She zooms in on the smudge as if it can tell her something. It does, but not what she expects. It tells her that this flyer has been handled by real hands. Her tea has cooled. She reheats it. The microwave hums like a bee that forgot the rest of the hive. She thinks of the stage, of 40,000 breaths gathered into one, of the vow she made to sing without apologizing for being audible. It occurs to her that apologies don't only sound like sorry, they sound like later and I'm fine and maybe next month. She turns the microwave off before it beeps. She doesn't want the sound of being done if she's not. Thursday arrives with the remarkable speed of ordinary days. All day, the invitation walks beside her like a companion who doesn't press the conversation but is clearly listening. She writes a line that almost rhymes and throws it away. She settles a bill. She waters the spider plant that thrives on neglect because it has decided generously not to take it personally. At 6:38 p.m., the sky over Eldrida is the color of a deep breath. She puts on shoes that don't look like she tried too hard to choose them. She puts on a jacket the color of wet stone. She stands in her doorway and does not move. She considers textable excuses. There is no one to text, which is its own reason to go. The hallway smells faintly of lemon cleaner and someone's dinner. She locks the door and unlocks it, just to practice leaving and returning. She locks it again. The staircase to Miro's Cafe knows secrets. It keeps them in its wood. It creaks in specific syllables. People who come to buy coffee step with one rhythm. People who climb to the rooms above step with another. On the second to last step, the wood changes key. Hinge. She pauses there and listens. The room upstairs is not yet visible. What is audible is enough. A kettle rolling to a boil, low voices like small streams, a laugh that belongs to someone who makes other people braver by going first. She considers the physics of doors. She remembers that it doesn't matter how wide a door is if you don't walk through it. She walks through it. Inside, the room is a hug that understands the difference between comfort and constriction. The chairs are set in a wide horseshoe facing a whiteboard. On it, in green marker, 3 verbs: build, guard, become. The stems are thickened where the facilitator pressed a little too hard, as if insistence is a shape. In the center of the horseshoe sits a glass bowl, sturdy, scuffed, the size of a watermelon. Next to it is a basket of smooth stones. None of this is decorative. All of it is deliberate. The facilitator looks up. She is soft around the eyes in a way that suggests laughter and tears take the same door. She doesn't rush to greet Rory like a salesperson at the mall. She holds the room like a person holds a heavy sleeping child, competent, careful, not performative.
Welcome. Tea first, name second, chair third. The order matters less than your breathing.
Rory laughs, a startled small laugh that resets a little something in her chest.
Tea, please.
A woman near the kettle passes her a mug without commentary. Another woman slides a sticky label and a marker across the table. Rory prints Aurora in careful block letters, then adds Rory in parentheses, the way she does when she hopes not to be called the long name unless someone means it. She chooses a chair near the door. The facilitator notices, and if she judges, it's a judgment that sounds like, of course. The room expands a little to make sure there is no sense of shrinking. The door stays open a thumb's width. That thumb belongs to a woman who sits nearest the door every week, perhaps for herself, perhaps for all the people who need to see an exit to feel like staying is a choice.
We'll start with our ritual. If you're new, relax. Rituals aren't hazing, they're choreography for belonging.
There's a murmur of agreement from the circle. The nurse who speaks in vital signs nods as if the facilitator has just checked a pulse. The baker touches the bowl like one touches a family heirloom used daily, not stored. The retired bus driver with rosin on her fingers sits tall as a cello awaiting its first note.
Take a stone. Name one weight you don't want to carry alone tonight. It is not a confession, it is an acknowledgement. Matter turning into matter. The bowl holds the weight. We hold the rest.
A dozen hands reach for stones, some with practiced ease, some with the care of picking a cherry from a cake. Rory reaches, hesitates, chooses one the color of river shadows. It fits in her palm like an old truth. It goes around. Heavy becomes visible. A woman names fatigue and puts her stone in the bowl. Another names, I bought into the lie that being needed is the same as being loved. The stone lands with a sound like punctuation. A third names, I yelled this morning, and the room does not flinch. When it's Rory's turn, the facilitator offers a sentence like a life jacket.
One true sentence, nothing fancy. What's true tonight?
I don't know how to be here and not perform.
The bowl receives the stone with a soft clink. The facilitator nods, not like a judge, like a person catching a ball.
Then you can practice being here and not performing. We practice things here.
Rory breathes in a way that must look small from the outside and feels like the first gulp after a long swim underwater. A woman with a blue scarf around her hair leans forward, elbows on knees, not intrusive, curious.
I'm Yoreli, first time too. We can be new together.
I'm Rory, thank you.
There is a poster on the wall opposite the whiteboard. It says guardrails in lowercase letters that are the opposite of rigid. Underneath are 3 sentences. We build with honesty. We guard with confidentiality. We become by practice. The facilitator points at the poster with the kind of reverence people use for recipes that belong to grandmothers.
Some circles talk about the people you should have in your village, a nurturer, a truth teller, a teacher, a peer. We love that language. We also keep it simple. Build, guard, become. People will take their places as we practice. Sometimes you will be someone's nurturer and someone else's truth teller in the same week. Boundaries help.
Rory thinks of how often she has gone shopping for personality traits like they were on a shelf. How often she has mistaken variety for abundance. The idea that roles arrive by practice, not declaration, sits in her chest like a chair pulled out for her. The facilitator introduces the evening's practice. It is called Try Again, Slower. The room tripwires into a quiet that is not fear.
We are very good at speed. We can outrun our needs and call it resilience. Tonight, we offer each other the gift of the second try. If you share and it lands wrong, one of us gets to say, try me again, slower. We will try again, slower. We will edit in real time. We will practice what we are becoming.
The first volunteer is the nurse. She tells a story about a night shift and a hallway conversation where she forgot to ask a question that mattered. She rewinds it, tries again, slower, and this time the sentence shows up with its coat on. Rory watches how the room handles tenderness like it is both fragile and strong. No one snatches it, no one diagnoses it. They let it sit in the middle until it warms to room temperature and can be handled without breaking. When Rory's turn comes around again, she has not planned to speak. She has edited her life so carefully these last months that improvisation feels like stepping into traffic. She holds her index finger against the stone's cool curve for courage she doesn't believe in yet.
I recorded a song last week. In the middle of it, I heard the crack in my voice and I stopped. I called it art and said starting over was the point, but the truth is, she breathes, I was afraid the crack meant I'm still broken. I came because I want to learn how to keep singing after the crack, or through it, or with it.
There is a pause, not the kind that rushes toward advice, the kind that lets the sentence finish arriving. Rory thinks of the times she wished someone had asked her that first.
Breaks are bridges when you keep crossing.
Rory laughs, a tiny amazed sound, because it is almost exactly the sentence she wrote later in her notebook and underlined so hard the page tore. She hasn't written it yet. The room is that kind of magic, non-linear in helpful ways.
Practice.
Rory isn't sure if the facilitator means now, here, with her actual voice. The terror and the desire arrive holding hands. She places her hands on her knees and keeps them there.
Not singing yet. Practicing staying after the crack. I can do that with a sentence.
Good. A sentence with a crack is still a sentence. Try it.
I thought the stage would fix me. I think the circle steadied me enough to stand on it.
The room exhales together, a small choir of lungs. No one claps. The kettle clicks in the corner like punctuation that means keep going, you're on the right paragraph. They wrap the evening like people wrap fragile gifts. The facilitator passes around a notebook, the Kaidari log. Everyone writes one sentence from the night that they want to take home. The cover is soft and scuffed and has a faint coffee ring that looks like a planet. Rory's pen hovers. She writes, not her most lyrical sentence, not the one that would make for a good quote under a photo, but the sentence that feels like a handle. I can be present without being finished. She underlines can once. She decides not to tear the page, to underline it harder. The practice is restraint, too. On the way out, the facilitator stands near the door the way hosts do at weddings. She doesn't prevent anyone from leaving. She leaves the door open a thumb's width, presumably with the thumb of the door-sitter woman who smiles at anyone who needs a reason other than I want to.
You came. You practiced. That's 2 verbs. The third takes care of itself if you keep bringing the first 2.
The third is become.
You saw the board.
She smiles.
It was hard to miss.
The hard things are the ones worth not missing.
They exchange phone numbers the way circles do when the circle is real. No pressure, just options. Rory adds Kaidari, Eldrida to a group chat labeled Gentle Urgency. The messages start almost immediately. A photo of the bowl from a different angle, a reminder that next week they'll read a poem about geese, an invitation to anyone who wants to come 10 minutes early and sit in the quiet. Downstairs, Miro's is closing slowly, the way cafes do when they live in neighborhoods where afternoons last longer than clocks. The barista with the tidy hair wipes the counter like an act of devotion. The smell of roasted beans and lemon cleaner is the exact scent of possibility. Outside, Eldrida is a catalogue of small lights. Street lamps shrug on. Windows choose their glows. A child laughs somewhere out of sight, which is the best place for a child's laugh, because it means there is a world where sound is joy and not fear. Rory climbs onto her bicycle. The second to last step creaks like a wink as she goes. She considers calling the climb a victory, then decides to name it accurately. It was a choice. Victory can come later, or not. Choices are the real architecture. At home, she pulls out the thin paper notebook she bought on a day when hope felt like buying things. She writes the date. She copies the 3 verbs in green pen, presses a little too hard, thickening the stems. She draws a small bowl. She writes a list of people who might one day be the 4 roles the facilitator mentioned if roles arrive by practice. She leaves the list half blank on purpose. Her guitar leans against the wall. She is careful not to turn the evening into a metaphor that must be capitalized. She tunes one string that has drifted, not because she plans to play, but because tuning is also practice. The next morning, she almost deletes the group chat, afraid the previous night was a fever dream and she will be revealed as an intruder. Instead, she scrolls up and finds the sentence she wrote in the shared photo of the notebook. Her handwriting is hers. The sentence belongs to her now that she has given it away. The week between the first and second meeting stretches and contracts as weeks do when you are watching them. She finds herself in moments that feel like small invitations and tries not to say later to each one. At the grocery store, she asks the clerk how his day is and waits for the second answer, the one that is real. At a crosswalk, she lets a woman with bandaged knuckles go ahead and makes a silent note to ask about boxing or bread next time. She practices no on the phone with a producer who is sure exposure will pay her bills. She practices yes at the exact moment her instinct is to make the yes conditional on her being better than she is. On Thursday afternoon, the sky forgets briefly how to be anything but grey and then remembers. She leaves 10 minutes early and walks instead of riding. The second to last step is not surprised to see her. Nothing creaks in judgment. Inside, the bowl is still in the center. The stone she placed last week is indistinguishable from the others, which is not erasure, it's belonging. The board still says build, guard, become under it. Someone has added in smaller letters, repeat. The facilitator grins.
Tonight, we practice guardrails, boundaries as choreography. You will say no. You will hear number. We will become a room that does not mistake no for unkindness.
Rory sits closer to the middle this time. It is not a declaration. It is a practical choice based on the temperature near the window and a desire to hear the baker's stories without leaning. Still, it feels like something. When it is time to ask for help, she does not dress the ask in apology. She says it plain.
I have a show in 2 months. I want to practice taking up space on stage without apologizing for existing. I don't know how to practice that alone. Would anyone come to a micro concert in my living room next week? 4 songs. 20 minutes. You can bring soup or silence.
The room tilts in a way that means yes is coming. The nurse checks her calendar like triage and nods. The bus driver says she will bring a chair that doesn't wobble. The baker says she will bring something that tastes like cinnamon and permission. Yareli, with the blue scarf, says she doesn't have soup, but she does have a plant that survived a winter and could use company. The facilitator says simply,
We'll be there.
Rory breathes out without counting it as an achievement. She writes the time on a sticky note and passes it around. Later, walking home, she thinks of the first invitation, the green square, the eucalyptus pushpin, the hinge step. She spins a thought experimentally and lets it land. Not all invitations are for you. Some are for the person you're about to become. It is not sentimental, it is practical. She almost missed the one for her. Someone else will almost miss theirs. She imagines them at a staircase on a second to last step, trying to talk themselves into later. She imagines putting a thumb in the door. Night air. Soft bicycle chain. A dog barks once and decides against a second time. When she gets home, she writes another sentence in her notebook and underlines without tearing. Invitation is a door you hold open for yourself first. The week will bring small crises. A string will snap. A throat will do what throats do when nerves interrupt. A neighbor will choose that exact hour to hammer something back into place. The micro concert might be messy in the way that practice is beautiful if you adjust your definition of beauty to include beginnings. She will sing after the crack, through it, with it. The room will not flinch, but that is next time. Tonight she rinses her cup, turns off the light, and leaves a thumb's width of door between who she was and who she is becoming. Enough room for air. Enough room for an invitation to pass without scraping its knuckles. Invitations are often quiet. They arrive as green squares, thumb smudge flyers, hinge sounds on a staircase. In Kaidari, the invitation isn't to be extraordinary, it's to be present. Build. Show up with one true sentence. Guard. Let no and yes keep the shape of what matters. Become. Practice until your life fits your values at the joints. Tonight we watched Rory walk through a door only she could walk through. We watched a room catch her sentence without turning it into a spectacle. Next time we sit with guardrails, how boundaries make room rather than take it, and how saying no can be an act of generosity. Episode 3 is The Guardrails. Subscribe so you don't miss it, and if you're standing on your own second to last step, consider this your nudge. Take the step. The bowl is waiting. The room knows your name even before you write it down.